By the time Razor touched down on Denvari tarmac, the war in Ostragal was already slipping out of our hands. Reznev was dead, eliminated during blackout kill. But the vacuum he left behind consumed the country faster than anyone predicted. Anton Valeska of the Free Ostragal Accord vanished without a trace. Imam Farid Jalouzi fled south across the border into Kasivar, taking his followers with him. And Viktor Semyonov of the Liberty and Shield Group, he lost the democratic election to Dmitry Viklenko, the fiery revolutionary who rallied the streets. But Viklenko wasn't a revolutionary at all. He was an agent of the Danvar Republic. In hindsight, every candidate probably had ulterior motives. Every speech, every mural, every rally, all of it was part of someone's game. But one question sat above the rest. Why did Danvar, an isolationist regime built on permanence, suddenly want Ostragal? As it turns out, Danvar had a plan. Operation Hollow Rock. The idea was simple, brutal, and elegant. Move its undeclared nuclear deterrent out of Danvar, hiding it inside a chaotic neighbor. Invite NATO inspectors into Danvar for the first time in decades. Prove, convincingly, that their arsenal had been dismantled. Then, win full sanctions relief, restart their economy, and return to influence the world stage. It would have been clean if their candidate had lived. Back in Ostragal, just hours after winning the election, Viklenko was assassinated at his acceptance speech, shot down in front of the crowd. His killers? A nationalist splinter cell calling itself PRF-3, the only faction that had seen Viklenko for what he was. With their asset gone and Ostragal fracturing into open violence, Danvar didn't wait. They invaded. Columns of armor rolled across the border. Artillery units took position in the hills. And in a matter of hours, the entire north of Ostragal was under Danvari control. If they couldn't take Ostragal through influence, they would take it through force. And so, knowing exactly what Danvar intended, knowing Hollow Rock was already in motion, coalition forces shifted focus to the only thing that mattered. Inspections inside Danvar, finding the warheads, exposing their lie. Coalition forces thought they were ready, thought they understood what they were walking into. Danvar, though, Danvar was different. The minute Blue 4 boots hit the airbase, the atmosphere changed. For once, what they saw wasn't chaos, it was precision. Escorted movements, mandatory handovers of gear, approved radios, locked to a single state broadcast channel, blocks of immaculate concrete under floodlights that never turned off. Their presence was tolerated, never welcomed, and every interaction reminded us we were walking inside a machine. Everything was orchestrated with cold efficiency. Escorts, staged missile silos, conveniently placed press crews ready to film whatever narrative the state required. The polite but suffocating restrictions that dictated not just where we could go, but when, how, and under whose supervision. Even our free time was observed, especially our free time. And that was the point. Danvar doesn't oppose you through force. Danvar opposes you through control. Every hallway, every checkpoint, every smiling liaison, it all existed to shape what we saw and what we didn't. And the deeper we went, the more we realized we hadn't stepped into an inspection mission. We had stepped into a performance. A performance crafted by a regime that does not fear inspectors or diplomats or consequences. A regime that fears only one thing: being predictable. Our mission in Danvar was simple in theory. Verify whether Danvar possessed nuclear weapons. What followed was a masterclass in manipulation. Every inspection site we visited was immaculate, curated, and deliberately underwhelming. Missile silos that were clearly just grain stores, dismantled facilities staged for camera crews, civilians who appeared only when the state needed them, and vanished the moment they weren't part of the script. And then, the opposite. Moments of raw military power Danvar didn't bother hiding at all. We saw columns of T-80s, Grad rocket systems, transporter erector launchers, and most concerning of all, vehicles visibly capable of delivering a nuclear payload. They showed us strength on purpose and hid everything else. Because Danvar wanted us to leave with only one possible conclusion. If nuclear weapons ever existed here, they aren't here anymore. And that's exactly what happened. We left with the worst possible result. Not proof of weapons, but proof of ambiguity. Danvar keeps its power through uncertainty, and we walked straight into their doctrine. By the end of our first week, the pattern was clear. Danvar would never let us find anything, because Danvar had already done whatever it needed long before we arrived. To the outside world, our official conclusion is damningly vague. No nuclear weapons were discovered in the Danvar Republic. But inside every intelligence shop in the world, the assessment is far less reassuring. No one believes Danvar opened its doors out of goodwill, and no one believes the absence of nuclear material inside the Republic means the stockpile was destroyed. What analysts are actually saying is this: Danvar likely moved its strategic deterrent long before inspectors ever arrived. Danvar now owns Ostragal's future. Ostragal is now a buffer state, a deniable extension of Danvari interests, a place where assets can disappear and reappear without international oversight. And if Danvar really did move nuclear components or delivery systems across the border, Ostragal is no longer just unstable, it's contaminated. Not by radiation, but by strategic ambiguity, the most dangerous weapon Danvar has. While Ostragal fractures and Danvar consolidates its influence, another front quietly shifts into crisis. Kassavar. Specifically, the Narshek Highlands, one of the most politically fragile and culturally independent regions in the entire Middle East. Imam Jalouzi fled Ostragal and was permitted to settle in northern Kassavar. After the SBC collapsed and Jalouzi vanished from Ostragal, he resurfaced across the border in the northern Highlands, the culturally distinct Narshek region. Kassavar's central government, eager to appear humanitarian and hoping to score regional diplomatic points, granted him temporary sanctuary, allowing him and a small exodus of southern Ostragalis to establish themselves near Narshek communities. This decision did not go over well. The northern clans, tribal elders, and established religious authorities view Jalouzi as an outsider, a destabilizing force, a political variable they did not approve, and a potential vector for Ostragali problems spilling into their territory. Locals see his arrival as a violation of their autonomy, a foreign religious leader planted in their midst by a distant central government that barely governs them in the first place. Tension is rising fast. The Narshek Highlands are unstable, autonomous, and deeply suspicious. Narshek has always been a region the Kassavari state pretends to control, but never truly has. Here, authority belongs to tribal councils, clan militias, smuggling syndicates, long-standing Highland religious institutions. The Highlands are proudly isolationist, economically neglected, and politically fragmented, and they do not tolerate outsiders, especially those bringing new followers, new ideologies, or new agendas. To them, Jalouzi's presence is a spark on dry brush. The Narshek Highlands are becoming the world's next buffer zone, a geopolitical chessboard between great powers, a collapsing humanitarian corridor where every actor believes they're protecting their own future. And Jalousy's arrival hasn't just shifted the balance, it's shattered it. After Danvar's invasion of Ostragal, tens of thousands of Ostragali Muslim families fled south, not in a wave, but in a flood. Kasivar's government, desperate to avoid becoming the next Ostragal, reluctantly allowed Imam Jalousy to establish a temporary cultural canton in Narshek. It was meant to be symbolic. It became a disaster. Narshek's infrastructure is overwhelmed. Temperatures are extreme. Food, water, and shelter are running out. And refugees are no longer just from Ostragal, they're arriving from other states entirely. Drawn by rumor, desperation, or misinformation. The single narrow mountain pass leading to Narshek, a twisting spine of switchbacks, is now a corridor of stalled cars, exhausted families, and outbreaks of violence. And out of that strain came something new, a group calling themselves Ansar Narshek. Ansar Narshek isn't some group of foreign-backed extremists. They're local Highlanders, angry, frightened, and convinced their homeland is being erased. They're burning warning markers, blocking roads, intimidating caravans, firing warning shots, turning people back. They don't want a war, but at this rate, they will create one if left unchecked. All of this, the migration, the anger, the scarcity, collides in a region that barely recognizes its own central government. Kasivar's Security Council knows this. Jalousy knows this. Danvar knows this. And if Danvar sees an opportunity to exploit the strain on its southern neighbor, we know exactly what they'll do. Operation Narrow Pass isn't about taking ground. It's about keeping the corridor alive long enough for Kasivar to regain control. Your job? Stabilize the passage. Confront and neutralize Ansar Narshek when they threaten civilians, obstruct the corridor, or attempt to bring Kasivar or Jalousy into this conflict. Shield civilians caught between starvation, fear, territorial nationalism, and the collapse of local governance. You will be acting as a physical buffer between three groups who cannot be allowed to clash. Ansar Narshek, Jalousy's SBC, and Kasivar's government forces. Your presence is the only thing preventing these pressures from erupting into a full regional war. Because if the passage collapses, Narshek becomes a sealed mountain pocket of desperation. Ansar Narshek becomes the de facto authority, armed, angry, and unrestrained. Jalousy's followers become trapped and radicalized by isolation and hunger. Kasivar fractures under internal pressure, risking a multi-front civil conflict. And Danvar's newly puppeted Ostragal sits at the border, watching a neighbor destabilize. If we fail to secure the passage, the story of Narshek and the fate of Jalousy's people will be written without us. But if we succeed, we keep the corridor open, literally and politically, long enough for tensions to cool, for the caravans to slow, and for Kasivar to reassert control without igniting a war. This is Operation Narrow Pass, where refugees, nationalism, state fear, and foreign interests collide on a single mountain road. And we stand between all of them.